Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the first part of SACAC's Mini Camp College for Charlotte, North Carolina. While we wish we could have this event in person, virtual is the next best thing. So we're very excited to share with you all more tonight. My name is Faith Fox. I am an admissions counselor from Randolph-Macon College, and I will be presenting tonight along with two other college professionals, and I would love if they could go ahead and introduce themselves real quick. Zach, we will start with you.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Zach Newsome. I am with the admissions office at UNC Charlotte.
Great. And Taylor.
Hi, guys. My name is Taylor Florio. I work at the University of Alabama as a regional recruiter.
Awesome. So I'm very excited to share with you guys more tonight on how to navigate your college search during COVID-19. We know these are very unprecedented times, so there's a lot of uncertainty with the college admissions process. But we are here to engage with you and to share more information with you so you guys can feel more comfortable. As you all probably know, your video and your audio is disabled, but we still want to interact with you. We want to answer all of your questions. So be sure to press Q&A at the bottom and submit any questions you have going through the presentation, and we will try our best to get through all of them at the end of the presentation. But we will go ahead and get started. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so how to navigate your college search during COVID-19. I know we just introduced all of ourselves, but here you can see again our positions as admissions counselors and regional recruiters, and also the institutions that we work for. We will all three be presenting on different parts, so you'll see us transition over here soon. But I will get started with my part on gathering information. So there's three main things that people need to consider or take into effect when they are gathering information. First is to consider what factors are important to you in a college. Second is using your resources to narrow down your options and also help you stay on track to make sure you're checking off all the boxes. And then third is to research on a college's website. Some of the factors that you can consider are the size of the college. Some colleges might be similar to the size of your high school. Some may be smaller, some may be a lot larger. So considering what size college you want to attend, the location of the college, if you want to be near the beach and the mountains, a mix of both or in between, that's really important to some people. Cost of the college is also a very important factor to consider. Usually most colleges will have on their website a list of what their cost is, their tuition, their fees, room and board. So go and look at that, and also just have a discussion with your family for what is affordable for you and your family. A public college versus a private college. Private schools tend to be smaller sometimes, and they don't have funding from the government, which is the difference. But then also a public institution is sometimes bigger, sometimes small. It just depends. So there are differences in the two, so considering which one you might be interested in. Academics, if you have a major that you already know that you're interested in studying, or if you completely have no idea, that's completely fine. So if you know that you want to be a nurse, then going to a school that has a nursing program is very important. So being sure to consider that as well. A 4-year institution versus a 2-year institution. If you are going for the 4-year degree with a bachelor's, or maybe 2 years for an associate's degree. In-state versus out-of-state. This also goes along with the cost and the location. Sometimes an out-of-state school can be, if it's public, can be a little bit more expensive. So looking at the cost and knowing where you want to be. And that also goes along with the distance from home. Some people want to move as far away from home as they want, or some people want to stay close by so they can go home for a nice home-cooked meal. So it's really up to you on what your preference is. The campus life, knowing that they have things on campus that you can get involved in. And also diversity is important to a lot of people. Diversity in so many different ways. Racial diversity, gender diversity, socioeconomic, different things. So these are really important factors to consider when looking for a college. Next is to use your resources. You may have heard of some of these before, but platforms such as College Board, ACT, the College Foundation of North Carolina, or CFNC, all of these are really awesome and important resources that will help you narrow down your options based on the factors that you chose that were important to you. You can also compare different schools that you're interested in. Platforms like CFNC will allow you to, as you can see in the picture below here, you can click on what grade you're in and it'll help guide you and tell you what types of things you should be doing in that grade to help you make sure that you're staying on the right track to prepare for college. So these are really amazing resources that students should take part in. ACT also and the College Board give free resources for students to be able to prepare for standardized testing, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But also just comparing different schools, typing in those factors that are important to you, and it'll spit out a list of colleges. As you can see here in the top picture, it says you have 3,954 college options. So you have to find a way to narrow down all those options based on the factors that are important to you. And these resources help you do that. Next is researching on a college's website. So once you narrow down your options and you find some colleges that you're interested in, going to that website and looking around. Some colleges, like the one at the top right here, you can see will have a page on freshman admissions. Some institutions may say undergraduate admissions. So knowing that there are different terms for your first year entry level admissions page is important to know. It's usually undergraduate, freshman admissions, first year admissions, something like that. So looking for that page, and then on that page, you'll find so many different resources such as applications and deadlines, visit options, ways to connect with your admissions counselors, information on financial aid and scholarships. So there's a lot of resources on these college websites, but even taking it further than just the undergraduate or freshman admissions page and just doing a lot more digging on what is their campus life like, academics, if you're interested in a business major, searching the business major at that institution in their search bar, and it'll give you more information about that major. So there's a lot of research that you can do on your own through resources, but also through the college's website. And that is just about all that I have for you guys. And now we will switch it over to Taylor.
All right. Okay, connecting the campus. So after you've done most of your research, you will find that you are wondering how to kind of like make it a little bit more personal, right? You've gathered all your information, you're starting to learn more about the process, but how do you actually start that relationship? So one of the ways that you can do that is through social media. I love social media, I use social media, and I am assuming that a lot of you guys do too. Social media is really good for information gathering. I know that for me, I will sit on my phone at night before bed and just scroll. And it is a way of gathering information. So the same applies to universities and colleges around town. You can go through their pages, you can read their content, you can watch their posts. Some of them even interact via Snapchat and Facebook and LinkedIn and different ways like that. The great thing about it is that you can access it at any time. So if you are a busy student and you have things going on during the day, or you have, your only free time is at night, this is a great way to interact with them on your time. So you can essentially set the parameters in which you interact with the institution through these mediums. It does keep you up to date with changes and updates. This is very, very important as it relates to the process now during COVID. Schools are making decisions quickly and they're changing almost weekly, if not daily. So in order to get up-to-date information, you might want to follow the schools on Twitter and Instagram, because chances are if they're making a big announcement about something, they're probably going to put it on those channels as well. You'll probably get emails from them, but this is an easy way when you've got your phone right in front of you that you can kind of stay up to date in that regard. It does offer additional resources. And really what I want to point out is YouTube. I would say YouTube and LinkedIn are really good in this regard, because a lot of schools will create amazing content and put it on YouTube, but you might not see it in the admissions website or in your email thread. So if you're really curious about what campus life is like, there's a good chance that the university has a YouTube channel. And under that channel, there are a ton of playlists in relation to stuff that goes on campus. Maybe there's highlights on intramural sports or organizational days, things like that. So I think that it does offer you a little bit of diversity as far as information gathering goes. Live stream options are really, really cool. And I think, schools were doing this before COVID-19, but now, especially since most people are virtual, live streams are an amazing way to get a more candid interaction with the school. So you might find that on Facebook Live, on Instagram Live, and not only will you get a real life type of conversation like you're getting right now, but you can engage with it. You can ask questions, you can raise your hand, and you can meet some more faces on campus that you might not have gotten an opportunity to meet, in the first place. And then last but not least, social media is something that you already have. I don't know about you guys, but my phone stays with me pretty much all the time. And it's, we're already clicking on social media channels throughout the day. So this is something that takes almost little to no effort. And it's something you already have if you haven't already downloaded a social channel before. And really, it's just a matter of consciously following those institutions and remembering to, essentially interact with them and watch their information. Connecting to campus in a different way is through your admissions counselor. I'm an admissions counselor. Zach is an admissions counselor. So is Faith. We are your liaison for the university. We're the person that you can count as a representative, your customer service person, whatever you want to call us. We are the people who are here to help. And I will say this right now, hopefully we're not intimidating to you. Most of the time we have a smile on our face, and we are really just here to answer questions about the school, clear up any confusion that you might have through the process, educate you about the opportunities that our school can offer. And oftentimes we might even refer you to other schools if our schools aren't a good fit. So know that we are here to really counsel you. They wouldn't call us counselors if we weren't here to actually help you through the process. Finding your admissions counselor can be very easy. Oftentimes it's just a matter of looking at the email signature that you got from an institution. And if for some reason you feel like those emails aren't coming, you can actually go to the institution's website and look underneath the admissions tab. And almost often it'll say meet the team or find the staff. And typically they'll be organized based on geographical location or ask you where you live. And then it'll tell you who your representative would be. And if you really don't want to go through all that trouble, a good old Google search will do the trick. All you really have to do is type in, let's use Alabama, for instance, University of Alabama, North Carolina admissions counselor. And I'd say 99% of the time my name pops up. So it can be very, very easy as far as a Google search. But once you find out who your counselor is, don't wait, just shoot them an email and introduce yourself. Let them know who you are, where you're from, what you're interested in. Schedule a one-on-one phone call or a virtual chat like this. And it can be a great way to kind of start the relationship, get information, and break down any walls or barriers that you feel like you have about an institution, or it definitely helps get the nerves out of the way, which is really nice. So texting, I know I've been, whipping out my phone a lot. Can't reach somebody, there's a chat box available. And I'm sure that some of you guys have been on websites before where a little bubble will pop up and it asks if you want to chat with someone. Know that that's a feature, but oftentimes it is legitimately a bot. So you're not quite getting answers from a real person. It could be helpful. But if your counselor says you can text them or they can text you, make sure that, you take advantage of that. If it's easier because your mom's taking you to the grocery store and you don't have time to actually have a conversation, shoot them a text and, they'll respond within, a certain amount of business days, which is really nice. Also knowing the difference between like on-campus counselors and regional counselors. The only reason why I'm pointing this out is because sometimes it can be confusing to you as the student. Make sure you know where your counselor is. If you're applying to a school in Michigan and your admissions counselor lives in Michigan, then obviously the majority of your interactions are going to be virtual via the telephone or over the internet. However, if you're applying to a school like UNC Charlotte or someone who has a regional recruiter that's based in your area, chances are you're going to interact with them a lot more. You might be able to see them in real life, hoping when COVID is all over, or you might be able to call them. They're going to be in the same time zone as you. So just make sure that you're well aware of where your recruiter lives and where they're based out of. And then just to kind of go towards what COVID will look like, or what interactions will look like post-COVID. I know that some of you on here are underclassmen, so I would hope that it's safe to assume that when it is your time to start searching for colleges, there's a good chance that you'll be able to go to campus and take a tour. So make sure that you let your counselor know when you're visiting campus, or vice versa. If they're coming into town and they're coming to your high school, make sure that you connect with them. That's a great opportunity for you to continue the relationship, put a face to the name, and it really does help kind of calm the nerves and make the process a lot better. And then last but not least, connecting to current students is also a really great way to candidly learn about the university. You're talking about students that are 4 years or less older than you, who are living the life that you're looking to live, right? They have chosen to go to a specific college. They're living in the dorms. They're playing the sports. They're going to the games. They're eating in the dining hall. They're doing all the things that you're shopping for. And so what a better resource than to ask a current student, hey, when it's raining, like, how do you get to class? Like, that's a great question that I don't think a lot of prospective students think about asking, but it's very much a reality in the world that we live in, right? Sometimes it rains, and how are you going to get to class? That's just a one little example, but sessions can be offered throughout, the university's availability. I know right now during COVID, there are so many virtual opportunities. So take advantage of them. I know that when the world starts functioning as normal, there might not be as many easy ways that require you not even having to really leave your house to speak to them. This image that I have on the screen just kind of shows an example of how you can look for institutions that are offering sessions. So make sure that you're visiting their virtual tour options and virtual information session options, and make sure you see when there's a student opportunity there. You can connect with them via social media. I know that a lot of colleges will do takeovers with their current students. So if you happen to follow an institution and you see their Instagram stories that day are from a student, send them a DM and ask them what their name is, where they're from, like start interacting with them, because that's a great way to get to know from the student perspective. Another way is your friends who have left for college already. I'm sure you guys all know some upperclassmen. Maybe you have siblings that are in college, or at least friends that you know that have been through this process. Take advantage of that. Shoot them a text, ask them how their first, second, third year was, and ask if there's any advice that they would give to you as a prospective student looking to see where you want to attend college. This just really gives a different perspective. And, we as admissions counselors can talk all day about our institutions, but like, I didn't go to the school that I work for, so I don't have the student experience specifically at my institution. So this is a way that you can get a different perspective. All right, I'm going to pass the baton on to Zach. Take it over, Zach.
All right, just bear with me just one quick second so I can share my screen with you all. Just a quick second here. So Taylor, thank you for that information. That was all really good information to share for students and learning how to connect to campuses. I'm going to actually continue the conversation on how to connect to campus and talk to you specifically about campus visits. So the campus visit process is such an important part of connecting to the colleges that you're interested in attending. Visiting a college campus and getting your feet on the ground in a normal non-pandemic setting is the best way to connect to the campus, talk to faculty, talk to current students, like Taylor was mentioning, see the buildings that you would be spending your time in, the dorms, the recreational buildings, the academic buildings, the labs. All of those things are so important when it comes to college selection. And all of us, and I think I speak for all of us here, is that we want you to go somewhere where you feel like you're going to be successful. And so part of that is going to be to actually visit the campus. So that's what I'm going to talk about. One quick note is that just be sure that you are connecting with your colleges that you're interested in to learn about what specific visit options they offer. as Taylor mentioned, as time passes and we can get through this pandemic that we're in, hopefully we'll be able to offer in-person, on-campus traditional visits. So some campuses may be able to do that while others are not. So I would encourage you to kind of do your research and find out who's offering what. Another note too is through these virtual experiences, most of these experiences are offered through platforms such as the one we are on now, which is Zoom. They could be offered through WebEx, maybe Google Hangouts or something like that. And we know that you all are getting accustomed to this platform as you've had to move to these platforms this past year in order to kind of get adjusted to the way your school was. Just going to jump in and talk about, so one of the ways that you can connect to campus through campus visits is through the admissions information session. So most colleges are going to offer some sort of admissions session where you can get information directly from an admissions representative. Now that representative could be current students, it could be an admissions counselor. Most of the time it is going to be an admissions counselor, so a professional that's there to answer your questions for you. If you take part in one of these, it's typically going to be the exact same presentation that you would get if you were to visit the actual college. So it's just as if you were going to be there on campus getting the exact same information. An interesting note is that some colleges offer even more sessions, so they're like breakout sessions so that you could learn about student services, campus life, things like housing, academics, and that sort of thing. The advantage to watching these live is going to be that you get to answer or ask your questions through a live chat system or Q&A and get them answered on the spot, kind of like what we're going to do here in just a few minutes. Most of the time, pre-registration is going to be required, so you want to look into that and look at their websites to figure out what you need to do to register for it. And if you can't make it, usually they're going to offer some sort of pre-recorded session too, so you can go back and watch that later. So to continue on, one of the next things that we'll talk about is going to be the live virtual campus tour. So this is kind of typically in conjunction with the admissions presentation that I just mentioned. And what this does is this lets you kind of get an idea of what campus is going to be like geographically. So typically, this is going to be led by students. So you get their perspective on the campus and what they use facilities for. So that can help you just kind of learn the campus. But they're typically going to be offered multiple times throughout the week, just like the live admission sessions. Some will include a housing tour, but sometimes housing tours are going to be a separate type of tour program. And then what's really important is that you ask questions throughout this, just getting to know the campus. So I know that many of these are going to go into campus buildings and tell you about where you're going to spend a lot of your time as a student and talk about student services and where a lot of students hang out. So really just getting to know the campus as best you can. Obviously, getting your feet on campus is going to be the best way to do this, but in light of COVID-19, right now, this is the virtual experience that you can do. Most of these are going to require some sort of registration beforehand, so just be sure to check with the colleges that you're interested in taking a tour to see what that process is like. So next, we're going to talk about virtual tours. So this is kind of similar to a campus tour. However, this is just kind of on your own. So many colleges offer some sort of campus tour program that can be quite interactive. They could be narrated. They can have 360-degree views. Some of them actually even have virtual reality capabilities. So while you're not physically on campus, it's the next best thing that you can do to kind of get an idea of what spaces are like on campus and to give you an idea of what that's like. There are different formats from each college. We all do kind of do separate things when it comes to that, but we highly encourage that you go into these virtual tours just so that you can kind of see exactly what's going on campus. Right. So, oops, get ahead of myself. So another way that you're going to be able to connect in the pandemic in a virtual kind of scenario is through virtual college fairs. So these are going to be fairs where you're going to be able to connect specifically with an admissions representative, a regional counselor, or an admission or a regular admissions counselor. Taylor was talking about earlier about kind of differentiating between the types of admissions representatives that you can come in contact with. So it could be an admissions representative, it could potentially even be students. It just kind of depends on the exact experience. But with these virtual college fairs, This allows you to connect with someone from the college in a virtual setting. So you get to ask them questions kind of in a one-on-one setting, which is nice. So it really takes the discussion a little bit, makes it a little bit more intimate. So if you have burning questions that you have to ask because you've gone through some of the other programming that's involved, and then being able to connect with someone one-on-one is really important. So this could be a virtual setting like this right here, and your camera could actually be shown, or it could be more of a chat. So there's a lot of different opportunities when it comes to this, or different formats rather, when it comes to these types of things. The good thing is too, and you can see on the bottom right-hand corner, that's actually from the website of StriveScan, and this is a vendor for college visits where you can go in and just view recordings of information sessions from colleges all across the country. So one of the things that COVID-19 has done, as we have moved so many of our programs to a virtual experience, is it's really opened the doors for students to look where they normally maybe wouldn't have looked for colleges because they weren't able to visit it physically. And since we're able to take so many of these programs and offer them virtually now, it does kind of expand your opportunities for seeking colleges maybe that you wouldn't have before. So one thing I would make sure that you do is to check with your high school counselor this fall, toward the end of summer, early fall, and kind of see what types of college fairs that your school is participating in and which ones that you will have access to. Another thing to keep in mind are special events that colleges offer. So special events would be something like a live virtual open house. So many colleges have moved their open house events this past spring to an online virtual format. So this is a great opportunity for you to watch these open house events. And the sessions that you are going to get are going to be just like the sessions that you would get if you were right there on campus. And some of these you can browse by topic of interest. So maybe you just want to learn a little bit more about a college's specific academic program, or maybe you're curious about scholarships at the college, or maybe you just want to learn more about student life. You'll be able to watch specific videos based on that topic. And also colleges, if you're not able to attend these live events, they do put out their pre-recorded events. So you can kind of watch these whenever you have time, and they usually will put all of them out there. So you'll be able to do that. So this is just a really great opportunity to connect with the campus and to learn more from outside of the admissions realm and really take a closer look at the university. And then colleges do offer special programs. So special programs could be something like an open house, but maybe it's formatted a little bit differently. I know there are colleges out there that offer programs that last an entire week, where maybe one of the days is going to be focused on academics, so you'll tune in live and just learn about academics. Maybe another day is going to be all based on student services, so University Career Center, tutoring services, what campus life is like, what's it like to live on campus, and then maybe another day would be something about recreational activities or anything else that's special interest involved. One thing I will say though that is really important is that colleges will communicate to you, typically through email. Sometimes they'll do this through texting as well, as Taylor mentioned, but you'll want to be sure that the colleges that you're interested in attending, that you create a portal account with them. That way you are going to receive invitations to special events that they have, because that's how they put it out there. They're also going to put it out there, as Taylor mentioned, in their social media as well. So just be sure that you're keeping up with that information, because most will require some sort of registration beforehand. And then finally, and some of you may have already participated in this pre-COVID-19, is college representatives visit high schools. We want to meet with you and connect with you and answer all of your questions that you have about attending our university and talk to you about what our application review process is, all of that kind of stuff. So in light of COVID-19, what's likely going to happen this fall is that we're going to have virtual high school visits. So it'll be a format very similar to this, although depending on how many students are there, it could be more interactive and we may be able to see each other. I can see you, you can talk, any kind of experience like that. So it's essentially an alternative to that traditional visit, having a representative at your high school. Instead, it'll just be virtual. A lot of times what college reps will do are just talk to you about their university, maybe somewhat of an information session, and then they'll turn it over and let you ask them questions. So it's a really good way to connect with an admissions counselor. So just be sure to check with your high school counselor this fall about any kind of virtual visit format and which colleges are coming to visit. This is another really good example to plug our portal accounts that you can create with us, because typically college reps and admissions counselors, what we do is we're going to email you. You're on our radar and we know you're interested in our university. We're going to email you in advance and let you know that we're going to come to your high school. So in this case, we're going to email you and let you know that we're going to have a virtual visit at your high school. So be sure to tune in there. All right, so that concludes the process of how to navigate the college search during COVID-19. What we want to do now is turn it over to your questions, and I'm going to bring the other panelists, Faith and Taylor, back in so that we can answer those questions for you. All right, so we're all back together again. Let's see if we have any questions in the Q&A. And if you do have questions, please feel free to put those in the Q&A feature down at the very bottom of your screen, and we will be sure to get those answered. I know that we did have a couple of questions that were submitted prior to the info session, so I wanted to bring those up now, and we can kind of chime in on those answers if everybody's ready. Yeah, okay, we're good to go. So one of the questions that was pre-submitted to us was, I've heard that for colleges, it is better to really commit to and do well in a few activities as opposed to spreading yourself thin. How far should we go or do well in those few activities to be impressive for colleges? For example, do we have to win national or international accomplishments, be a founder of an organization, etc.? Anybody want to jump in and answer that question for the student?
I can. I think that you should never feel like you have to spread yourself thin. Definitely engage in the things that you're passionate about. I think for admissions counselors, the application review process is going to be a little bit different this year for some colleges that are going test optional or changing some of their policies. So most colleges will say what is important to them that they are looking for in your application. But most colleges do a holistic review of your application. They want to see not only your grades, what you're involved in. If you have any leadership, that's great, but it's not required by any means. But don't feel like you have to spread yourself thin. Just engage in what you're passionate about, what you want to achieve, and then that'll reflect in your application.
Okay, great. Thank you, Faith. Another question, and we've gotten this one a couple of times, so we definitely want to be sure we get this one answered, is demonstrated interest a deciding factor for most schools? And how important is demonstrated interest? Or are they more important than volunteering or extracurriculars? I mean, I can go ahead and start and say, to answer that question, is demonstrated interest is definitely a thing in college admissions, but it's different for different universities and how they look at demonstrated interest. Because we don't have the traditional visits that we would normally have, I think that colleges are probably going to be a little bit lenient there when it comes to demonstrated interest. Some colleges, as I mentioned, do require you to register for some of the live information sessions. And when they know that, that's demonstrated interest. So you're showing that by tuning into admissions presentations, open houses, any kind of live event that's happening, or campus tour or anything like that. But I think that, like I said, they're going to be a little bit lenient this year because it's hard to do that demonstrated interest. But what I would recommend is that you create your portal accounts with each individual school that you're very interested in. Because one thing that we can do is we can see some insider information here, is that we can see how active you are in your portal accounts. And so that would be one way that we can measure demonstrated interest. Also, in light of COVID-19 and not being able to actually visit, or if the college you're interested in doesn't have a registration process for their programs, and so you really want to be known that you're interested, call your admissions counselor. Look up your admissions counselor. It's very easy to do that. And just have a quick conversation with them and say, hey, I'm super interested in your school. In light of COVID-19, I've just done some information sessions, but I want you to know as my admissions counselor that I'm highly interested. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I think you said it great.
All right, good. Another question is, when should I, and this is this is a hot topic. So when should I start preparing for and actually take the ACT and or ACT?
Well, I can let everyone know we are going to have another webinar on ACT and SAT, just standardized testing and general prep and how to prepare for that. So be tuned for that. But I'm sure that some of my colleagues here might have some advice on what to do with that.
I'll chime in. So, this is a hard question because I went from having a plan to not having a plan. When I say we, I mean you all as prospective students and parents. So I think all of us would agree that really staying in tune with what your current, like what North Carolina is doing as far as their steps in reopening or not reopening. I know that another test date just got canceled from what I hear from one of the locations. So staying up to date with when tests are available and how often, and making sure that you're signing up for them, even if they keep getting canceled, continue to sign up for them because you want to make sure that you're getting your opportunity to take the test. And then again, I'm just going to reiterate what I spoke about. Your admissions counselor should have the right information about what that specific institution is going to be doing. So if you were to ask myself one question about my school and then you'd go to ask Faith about hers, we're probably going to give you different answers because our institutions might be doing different things. So trying to keep up with the institutions and what they're announcing is probably going to be your best bet. Now, in preparation, I know that there are a lot of virtual sources as well as books that you can buy or rent that help with test prep. So if you're feeling like you're missing out on that aspect because you're not in school, those can be really good resources, either online or, like I said, those big books. They're really thick. It can help.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, colleges are going to be really flexible as to barriers that you have. If you're a rising senior, you are unable to take the SAT or ACT due to COVID-19, I mean, we're all going to be flexible, I would imagine. I mean, speaking for my college, we're going to be flexible when it comes to that and allowing you time to take those tests for your application process review.
We're getting some questions in Q&A. Oh, you're fine.
Go ahead, Faith.
Okay, I will pose this first one to everyone. It says, what are some questions to ask admissions officers?
What are some questions?
Well, I think it's really important that if you're talking to an admissions officer or counselor, that you have a really good idea of what that individual college is looking for during their application, because that will help you when it comes time to submit your application. So, for example, there are colleges out there that don't require an essay. So that's really good information to know when you're preparing to apply. Many colleges don't require it, so you would know specifically with speaking with your admissions counselor if that's something you need to worry about. Or letters of recommendation. Some require it, some don't. Some schools are test optional. So it's just knowing really kind of what the application review process is, what the competitive academic profile looks like, and how to be more competitive on the application. I think it's a conversation you'll definitely want to have with your admissions counselor or admissions officer.
I would also add to what Zach just said that once you get kind of the meat and potatoes of the necessary details, try to think of things that you might not be able to figure out on the website. Like a website's going to tell you a lot of the general information, but maybe you have a question about a very specific organization or what the campus culture is like. That's something that you can't really get from a website. So think of the things outside of the box that you want to know about a school that you can't necessarily find anywhere else.
One question that I always tell students is great to ask, like at college fairs, when you're going up to lots of different tables or virtually, as it'll be this year, is asking an admissions counselor, what is distinctive about your college? What types of things do you offer that are different? Or what just makes your college a little bit different from other colleges? So you can get a taste of what they think about their college and just some things that you don't see on the website always, but
Another question that we got through the Q&A is, what is the best way to learn about honors colleges? What specifically are they? Is it a separate curriculum? Do you want to talk about their honors program or honors college?
I can. So I'm not sure how all colleges do it, but at some institutions, usually the honors program or the honors college will reach out to you and invite you to interview or write an essay or something to apply to the honors college. There usually is perks for being in the honors college or honors program, such as special housing, classes that are for honor students that could be smaller in size, so you can have more discussions or something like that. But there are some differences in being a part of the honors college, but usually there's information on the website for a college about it, but also the colleges will reach out to you and tell you more if you sometimes qualify to be in their honors college or honors program.
Thank you, Faith, for that. So the next question we have is, this particular person they've been contacted by some of the smaller colleges and they're interested, they've been contacted by some of the smaller colleges and they're interested in upcoming events. How do you make a connection with the larger university? So, I mean, I can speak to larger universities because I work for a large university, and it's honestly, it's not really any different than a small institution. So what you'll want to do is create your portal account, call the office, let someone know that you're interested in their university, and they will get you set up to receive invitations for the events, as you mentioned. But it's all pretty similar process with the large institutions or the small.
I'm going to add something to that too, because I know that we've gotten a question below. I'm going to kind of multitask and answer two at once. We've gotten a question below about portals and signing up for portals. So just coming from another large perspective, not every school requires you to have a portal account before you apply. So again, another great reason to find your admissions counselor and ask them that important question. Hey, is there another thing that I need to do to keep in touch with the university? And, you know, they might say, yeah, you're going to have to fill this out and create an account. And others might say, no, you just go to the website. So just make sure that you are kind of keeping a log, because I know for me, the more passwords I get, the more confused I get. So creating like a little cheat sheet, either in a spreadsheet or on a piece of paper at home, that can help kind of differentiate what you've been signing up for and who you've been talking to. And whether it's a big school or a small school, there should be an admissions person that is dedicated to you, no matter if there's 100,000 students or 2,000 students.
Another great question that we got is, should we still take the SAT/ACT even if the college we are applying to has gone test optional due to COVID-19? I can say for a lot of institutions, it can be different. So reading what their admissions policy is and their test optional policy is really important. I would say, I know that for a lot of colleges, it will not hurt you at all if you do not submit your test score, but it can help you. There's different colleges do it different ways, so looking into that. But if you have the opportunity to take it and you're interested, then I definitely recommend that you do.
All right, so there's another question here, and it's a long one. So I'm going to read it for everybody. I'll read it slowly, but we certainly appreciate the question because it is a really good question. So it's a student who wants to ask about the Common App essay. Being an admissions advisors, you know, he's aware that we know about these things. And so his specific question is that how much of the Common App personal essay should be comprised of narrative versus reflection and direct statements about what he or she can contribute to the college. He or she has received advice that seems to have been mixed, with some people saying to include at least half of the essay directly saying how his or her story shows what they can contribute, and others saying that most of that should be inferred given the qualities of your story, the qualities that your story expresses about yourself without directly stating them. Is this the same for supplemental essays? I want to chime in on this deep essay question.
We don't accept essays, so I'm going to pass the baton.
I would say Well, also keeping in mind that we are going to have another webinar about how to write an effective essay, so stay tuned for that. But some advice I can give you now is that your admission, usually there is a prompt either on the Common App or through the college's website, whichever way you decide to apply. Different prompts that you can choose from that'll give you like a topic, and that's what you write about in any format that you decide to. I know personally for me as an admissions counselor, I like to learn something new about the student that I didn't see in other parts of their application. I hope that they let themselves shine and write about whatever they choose to write about, because it is your own writing style. So that's what we want to learn about you. And, but I don't know, I can let Zach talk about it maybe, but definitely stay tuned, check your emails, because we will be having another webinar on how to write an effective essay.
Yeah, I mean, Faith, I think that's really good information. I think that this particular student who asked this question really needs to reach out to the colleges that he's interested in attending, have that conversation with an admissions counselor and to get that question answered, because we all come from different institutions with different requirements when it comes to submitting the essay. I don't want to not do your question justice, because for my institution, we also don't require essays, but as Faith said, you definitely want to share what your application does not capture. So as someone who reviews applications for admission, we don't want to see repetitive information. So we also want to know how you're going to be an active member of our community and how you're going to contribute in a positive manner to our campus. So, but just, I hate to kind of like pass the buck, but I do feel like that's a really good question specifically for the colleges that you're interested in. Many colleges do have prompts, like Faith was mentioning. So for example, for my institution, we don't require the essay, but essays are required to earn scholarships. And so those have prompts. So I think just with essays, it's a really good idea to know exactly what the expectations are from each individual. And that looks like that's all of our questions for the presentation so far. There's no other questions in there.
I think so. So I guess that brings us to the end of our first webinar on how to navigate your college search during COVID-19. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. We hope that you learned some great information that you can take and use in your own college search. I will remind you all that this session was recorded, and we're going to put it on a website for the SACAC's website. So we will be sharing the link to that so you guys can go back and review it if you need to. But thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. If you have any other questions, you have my email and the other coordinators of this webinar's email, so feel free to reach out to us. But I hope you have a great night.
Bye, everybody.